Of our 6 new shows this week to review, many of them have familiar faces, themes, and even titles. Let's talk TV. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews. Welcome to TV News and Reviews for the week. Going to tackle 6 new shows as we usually do here. And of course, we've got the news as well. But in shows, we're going to talk about The Resort with Christina Milioti, Keep Breathing over on Netflix, Uncoupled, which is the new Neil Patrick Harris show created by Darren Star of Sex and the City fame. We also have a new Pretty Little Liars called Original Sin, and that is over on HBO Max, and then a couple of new kids and family-friendly shows over on Apple TV+. We do the TV news and reviews every single week here, so join me, won't you, for those episodes, tackling the newest of the shows. Usually they're a couple of weeks old, so I can sample at least a couple of episodes for you. But in any event, let's start with the news as we do. So renewals and cancellations is first, and Good Trouble over on Freeform is going for season 5. It is a top 10 program on ad-supported cable for women 18 to 34, huge advertising demographic. And Freeform, like I've said the last few weeks, really, is one of the few basic cable channels left that is still pumping out original shows, and they have several of them. I mean, they've got Cruel Summer, Everything's Trash, which I just reviewed I think last week, and of course their flagship show Grownish, returning I think in just a couple of weeks for its new season. But Good Trouble will be back for season 5, and then this is an interesting one. So Days of Our Lives has sort of been canceled, but really, it's just been moved. It's going to start airing in the fall season on Peacock. It is the longest-running entertainment series. Now, I don't know about this fact. The longest-running entertainment series the network has ever aired. Now, I think The Tonight Show has been on longer, so maybe they're not counting that as an entertainment show because it's like an unscripted talk show. So maybe they mean like a scripted entertainment show. I don't know, but the article said the longest running entertainment show NBC has ever had, and I was like, I don't think that's right. But anyway, but this coming season will be the 58th, so that obviously is huge. But I do think the Tonight Show has been on. Maybe they're counting it because different hosts maybe aren't the same, but of course Days of Our Lives, I don't think has any cast members from the original, 50, from the first season to the 57th. Maybe I'm wrong on that too, but it's only the second longest running daytime show currently on. General Hospital has been on a little bit longer on ABC, but this fall, Days of Our Lives will pass The Guiding Light, which has been canceled, as 58 years. Guiding Light made it to 57 when it got canceled a couple of years ago, but now it's going to have a 58th season on Peacock, which is pretty cool. But of the 4 soap operas still airing in daytime on broadcast television, this is the lowest ranked one. It does still get, which I think is very impressive, it still gets 1.7 million viewers a day, and that's before you consider people that watch it later on Peacock, because I think Peacock keeps the latest couple of weeks up or something. I don't think they have the whole archive, but maybe the last couple of weeks or month or something of episodes. So that doesn't even count that. The people that watch it live on the day is 1.7 million people. For a daytime show in a world where most people are generally working during the day, I actually think that's pretty good. But it's the lowest of the 4 remaining ones. General Hospital, I think, is the highest with about double that. So, all right. And it's going to be replaced with a new program, a daily news program. So, for whatever that's worth. More news if you need it on NBC. All right, in casting news, Rosanna Arquette is going to recur in season 3 of Big Sky. And in fact, we have sort of a slight name change for the show. It's going to be called Big Sky Deadly Trials. It's going to focus, I guess, on a specific trial for this new season. Jensen Ackles and Reba McEntire are also starring in the upcoming season, and Reba is going to narrate as well. I think she's going to act in it as well as narrate, but in any event, she's going to be on board to narrate, if nothing else, but perhaps act as well. And then Fargo Season 5 really shaping up as well. Juno Temple, John Hamm, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and from Stranger Things, Joe Keery are all going to be in the new season of Fargo, which is slated to have a more comedic tone as well. And I think I have only maybe seen the first 2 seasons. Maybe I saw the first 3. I know I didn't see the Chris Rock one, which I think was season 4. They aired that, I believe, during the pandemic, because that was like already shot and in the can before the pandemic started, if I'm remembering that correctly. But in any event, I definitely haven't seen that season. But I really enjoyed, sort of the first few years of it, and I liked the movie a lot as well. So it'll be interesting to sort of take a more comedic tone with it. But with that cast, I mean, John Hamm and Juno Temple, we've certainly seen them be comedic. And this will also take place in 2019, which is the most recent of them. I think previously the most recent one took place in 2010. But that sort of bounces all over the place. I know they did one in the 70s, and so it sort of goes back and forth. But this one will be in 2019. And then not a ton of news this week. I just have one more story, and that is Ellen Pompeo from The Greys will star in and produce an untitled drama about an orphan that is not what she seems for the Hulu streaming service. And from the rest of the sound of it, I'm not sure if they're going for that movie Orphan, which I'm not going to spoil because there is a twist in that old horror movie from like 15 years ago. But it was called Orphan. This one doesn't have a name yet, so I don't know if they're really working on that. But when I hear an orphan that is not what they seem, that's sort of what I think of. But maybe it's going in a different direction. But this is one of Pompeo's only things outside of Grey's in a long time. She used to do movies here or there. I know she was in Old School, but that was close to 20 years ago by now, right? But she is scaling back on her Grey's. She's only going to be in 8 of the 22 scheduled episodes for this next season. I mean, look, the show is getting very long in the tooth. It's already the longest running medical drama of all time. But here's the thing. Her character's name is in the title. Meredith Grey, Grey's Anatomy. Now, over the years, they have brought in other Grey family members. Lexi Grey, her sister, was on the show for a while. I think they killed her off a few years ago, but I haven't followed the show in years and years, but I think maybe her character's dead. But still, they could pull from other members of the Grey family and still have it be Grey's Anatomy. But show creator Shonda Rhimes has stated that there really is no Grey's Anatomy without Meredith Grey and without Ellen Pompeo. So basically, as long as she wants to do it, she'll be doing it. But it seems like if she's only going to be in barely a third of the episodes for the season, that to me says she is somebody who is sort of on her way out and wanting to exit the show. But look, she's made a mint on that show. To me, it's like one of the sweetest gigs on television, up there with Mariska Hargitay on Law & Order SVU. She's been doing the same role for like 22 years. She's one of the highest paid actresses on TV. She has a producing credit on the show, just like Ellen Pompeo. Why would you stop? I mean, look, I guess to maybe challenge herself with other things, but it's still one of the most highly rated shows on television. So certainly, if she's getting tired of it, the audience is not. They're still loving it. So, all right, like I said, not a whole lot of news this week. So let's just dive right into the reviews, shall we? So first up is The Resort. This is on Peacock, and it is a dark comedy / mystery program. Kristen Milioti is the star of this, as well as William Jackson Harper, who was Chidi in The Good Place. Love him. And they are on a 10th anniversary marriage trip at a nice holiday resort. However, their marriage is strained, and from the first few scenes, you as the viewer, you're like, oh, where's this going? Is this going to be these guys just fighting the whole show? Or I try not to watch previews and stuff, so I didn't really quite know what the tone of the show was going to be when I watched it. But I like her a lot, so I was hoping maybe there would be some sort of comedic element to it. But the good news is it is from I think either the director or one of the main producers of this movie she did called Palm Springs with Andy Samberg a few years ago. That was really good. I know my buddy Tim, that's on my channel frequently, it was his #1 of the year. Loved that movie. I thought it was very, very good as well. Not quite up to that level, but still very, very good and worth watching. And ever since, really, How I Met Your Mother is about the worst thing she ever did. She came on in that last season as the mother, and it was just not a great last season. But everything else I see her in is she lights up the screen. She did a show recently for HBO Max as well that I've reviewed quite highly. I can't think of the name of it at the time, but I think Ray Romano was the father. And that also had sort of a sci-fi element to it. So here's the basic gist of what ends up happening in this first episode is, while they're fighting, she ends up finding this flip phone from 15 years before, and there is a whole mystery attached to it because she learns that the owner of the phone went missing without a trace. And so now, as we get into episode 2 and future episodes, we're going to go into the past with those actors, including Nick Offerman, Skylar Gisondo, who was in Santa Clarita Diet. He plays sort of the nerd character all the time. And then a few other people I don't really recognize. And then we go into his home life as well. So we go into his life on the island, but then we go into his home life too with Dylan Baker and Becky Ann Baker, no relation, as his folks, and then Debbie Ryan as the girlfriend. So, and then we flash forward to the present with Kristen Milioti and William Jackson Harper. So it sounds, a little bit nuts. It sounds sort of hard to explain. There's a lot going on, but I'll tell you what, this is one of these shows that kind of hooked me right from, the end of that first episode. Again, a lot of shows have been doing this lately. I talk about this a lot, where the whole premise for the show doesn't really appear until sort of the end of that first episode. That's like the hook to get you to keep watching more. So a lot of times I do end up sort of spoiling that first episode, but yeah, I can't talk about like the general plot schematics of the show without mentioning, okay, here's sort of the twist of the first episode. So, I apologize for maybe going into too much detail, but I think it's important to sort of know what you're getting into with this one. I thought this was a lot of fun. And, it'll be fun to see the couple, Kristen Milioti and Harper, sort of going back and forth and learning about, okay, well, maybe we're on the rocks a little bit, but now we've got something to connect us. We're going to try and figure out what's going on, what happened to this person. As they're digging up, they are learning other things, and perhaps about some other people involved and whatever. So, look, most of these shows do sort of live and die by, okay, how is the end result? Is it resolved? Is this a limited series, though? Let me see what it says. It is not listed as a limited series, so I like that. That means we could get more seasons of this. It could also mean it could be maybe an anthology series, in which case we will see maybe a different couple at the same resort later on or whatever. That's what they're doing with the White Lotus. But this does remind me actually a little bit of the White Lotus, because both of those shows sort of do take place on this really fabulous resort with a bunch of interesting people, and there is a huge mystery element to it. So this one I think is maybe a little more straightforward, because it's really just about this couple who isn't mysterious. We sort of know their deal, figuring out stuff from the past, and we, the audience, are learning as they are learning. Whereas the White Lotus, it seemed like everybody was kind of a little kooky. But I'm getting definitely shades of the White Lotus here, which I did like that show. But this I think I might like even better. And part of that could be the chemistry between Harper and Milioti for sure. I'm going to leave the resort with an A-. Next, we are going to go to, we're going to stay sort of with this same theme of the mystery element and an island of sorts. This is over on Netflix. It's called Keep Breathing, and it features Melissa Barrera, who was in the latest Scream movie. She was also one of the stars of In the Heights last year. But this is a limited series, and it's only 6 episodes, and each one's only like 35 or so minutes. So I actually considered binging the whole thing, but as you'll hear from my review, it might not be quite worth making it to the end anyway. But it's not terrible, but follow me on this. So the premise basically is that she is this attorney who is on a trip in this kind of puddle jumper, and she ends up crashing in the middle of the Canadian wilderness. And there's only 2 other people, the pilot and the co-pilot, that were even with her. And in short order, she realizes, I am alone and nobody knows we're here. There's definitely some mystery elements here as well, but it's more sort of about her ability to survive and adapt in this environment. And, here's the thing. Here's why I didn't sort of watch all 6 episodes. And I still might finish it at some point, but it wasn't something that sort of begged me to keep binging. And here's why. We're doing a lot of flashbacks here, and I get it. Ever since Lost, anything like this, especially on an island, Yellow Jackets did the same. Although the twist with Yellow Jackets was the the plane crash was in the past, and we're dealing with these women's lives now, and then flashing back to when they were on the island. So that was sort of a little bit of a twist there that I really liked. And then La Brea on NBC, that has sort of a different twist as well. So, everything sort of being a twist. But this one, it's pretty much ripped right from that Lost page of, let's do, crash land in the very first episode, and then what happens, and then, let's see who this person was in her previous life on dry land before the crash and all that. So really taking a page directly from that Lost playbook. And the other thing is, this, to me, is not a 6-episode limited series. When you stack all the episodes together, it's about 3.5 hours. And it wasn't really, it didn't need to be that for me personally. It seemed like it might have been better suited as a 100-minute movie. I was reminiscing about, in my mind anyway, while I was watching it, reminiscing about like The Shallows with Blake Lively and movies like that, where it is, pretty much a one-person show of survival. In the Shallow case and this case, both women, so that may have been also what was leading me to that comparison. But when you throw in the sort of, in my previous life, I was a lawyer, and here's what I did with my boyfriend, and whatever, it didn't quite interest me as much as the island stuff. And Melissa Barrera, I'm telling you, she is an up-and-coming actress. She was great in those 2 movies I just mentioned, and she really is the glue that holds this thing together. If there's a reason to come back and watch more and more of these episodes, it's for sure her. So I think she is one to watch here coming up. But for this particular show, I think it would have been better served as a movie, 90-minute, 100-minute movie, as opposed to a 3.5-hour drawn-out saga about, her past and all this. Because the truth is, at the end of the day, when you crash land and you're on an island, does the past even matter? Now, in Lost, everybody was so mysterious, it was, sort of necessary to continue the story along. But here, she's just one woman fighting to live another day here. So it might have been helpful to sort of trim that off. So it didn't quite work for binging in my case. So I think it's okay, but I think it bars too heavily from Lost for sure. But great performance from the lead. I'm going to leave... what's it even called? Sometimes I forget. Keep Breathing. Yes, I'm going to leave it with a C+. All right, next we stay on Netflix and go to Uncoupled. This is a highly touted program with Neil Patrick Harris because it's got a lot of star power. No pun intended, because it's Darren Star is the head of this. He is the co-creator, and I believe he directed at least the first couple episodes. It looks like he doesn't do some of the later ones, but essentially, Neil Patrick Harris is a real estate agent who wants to surprise his husband with a nice 50th birthday party. However, as soon as they, approach sort of the landing for this building that they're about to go in and have this big party, his mate reveals to him that he is not interested anymore. He wants to break up. He's already taken his stuff, and it's just horrible. So, as we go on to the story, it's basically going to be about the Neil Patrick Harris character moving forward with his life, along with his business partner, played by Tisha Campbell, and the great Marcia Gay Harden here, who he strikes up a friendship and a business partnership with, in the first couple of episodes here. So Darren Star gave us Sex in the City. That is, I would say, what he was... Well, I don't know. I mean, he gave us 90210 as well, I guess. But that was more Aaron Spelling, and I think he was sort of... I don't know. Did he create that show? I don't remember. I feel like Aaron Spelling created it, and he definitely had his hand in that and Melrose Place. But I'll be honest, I'm not sure if he created them. But definitely Sex in the City, and he created Younger more recently on TV Land, which is a popular show. And then currently Emily in Paris, which I didn't particularly care for, but it got some Golden Globe nominations, and so people do like that over on Netflix as well. And then, of course, he has his hands all over the new Sex and the City reboot. So he's got 3 shows currently on the air, and Younger just ended after, I think, a 7-year run or 6 years or something. So, he's definitely prolific. I'll give him that. My biggest issue with this show, though, is it is very steeped in the Darren Star isms of 20 years ago. It's just like I'm watching Sex in the City, but gay male version. And not that the whole cast is even gay and male. I mentioned obviously Marcia Gay Harden and then Tisha Campbell, but the theme music and the music, in between the scenes and stuff, and the sort of pratfalls of the characters and the sort of the classic sitcom-y nature of it, it feels a bit stale. And I enjoyed watching it. I just like I like the Sex and the City reboot, but with that at least they sort of made a few changes, not just not having Kim Cattrall in it. That was a bad change, but some of the things they did that I thought, okay, well, this is setting it apart a little bit from 20 years ago. This seems like it should have been aired 20 years ago. And I understand, look, as a gay man, I understand 20 years ago, Will and Grace was just sort of breaking down that door for a lot of shows like this to even exist. So I get it. You couldn't have done this show 20 years ago. And I think in the way they're doing it as well, there's, a lot of news stories going on about Neil Patrick Harris's, penis being shown. It's not really his. He got a fake picture to look like his or whatever. I was a little disappointed by that myself, but that aside, but they could not have done this show, I think, 20 years ago. I don't think America was ready for it. And okay, fine. But as a result, were these scripts just kind of lying around in Darren Star's closet for 15 years and then he decided to do the show? I don't know. But it all seems very, very dated, not fresh. Enjoyable to watch, for sure. Neil Patrick Harris, great as always. I've followed his career ever since the Doogie Howser days. Marcia Gay Harden is always great too, and the two of them sort of sparring back and forth, and giving each other barbs and stuff. That's great. Tisha Campbell, I like her from Martin and everything. She doesn't really add much, to be completely honest. But it's the way her character's written. It's not really her fault. So there are certainly things I like. And I like it almost as much as that Sex and the City reboot. So I'm just going to give it, a slightly lower grade. But I have to say, it should have been made 15 years ago, for sure. I know, couldn't have been done, but it should have been done. And I leave Uncoupled with a B. I know I pooped on it a lot for giving it a B, but I did enjoy watching it immensely. It just doesn't seem as fresh as I would have liked for it to be. Pretty Little Liars is next, Original Sin. And this is now the fourth version of the Pretty Little Liars. They did the original show, which ran for, I think, 6 years on Freeform. And then they had 2 one-season spin-offs from that show. This one is not necessarily a spin-off. It is taking place in the same universe, but it's with a whole different cast of characters. But it's within the continuity, apparently, of the original stuff. So I've never watched Pretty Little Liars. I know it's so popular. I sort of got on the Freeform train after Pretty Little Liars, with Grownish and The Fosters and some of those other shows. So I sort of missed the Pretty Little Liars phase, but I know people do love it. It was obviously immensely popular. So this version follows the group of teenage girls who receive some terroristic messages and perhaps threats from a mysterious person named A. Sort of like the A in the Scarlet Letter on Hester Prynne's chest, and they make reference to that in the first episode. But basically holding these teenagers responsible for events in the past that their parents had to do with, not them, before they were even born. And so we sort of do see both generations here. We see the teenagers, and then we see, the adults that go along with it. And there's a few flashbacks here, but mostly it does take place in the present day. So I had to do a little research on this because this is more of like a horror type show. And I would say a lot more of a horror type show than I thought the original Pretty Little Liars was. And I was correct. That was more of like, I knew it was kind of like a mystery, sort of maybe like in the Gossip Girl way. And there were some thriller elements to it. But this one is, I would say a straight up horror, really. And I think that's probably good for it because it does set it apart a little bit from what came before. But it seems like, from what I understand about the original show and its spinoffs, it seems like this is in the same spirit of those shows. And so I think people that are fans of the originals, I think, are going to like this. And also people like me who have no idea really much about the original stuff, you don't need to, because this is a whole new same universe, but a whole new cast of people and a whole new dilemma and mystery and all of that. So you don't really have to have any kind of connection to the original. I really liked that. But what I like the most about this is it really is leaning into the horror cliches and the horror tropes with its, tongue planted firmly in the cheek. They're having fun with this, much like the Scream series does, obviously. That sort of, sets the template for it, and everything else is trying to catch up. But I think this show does a really good job of sort of giving us those classic horror elements, and more like slasher elements, I would say, like a Scream. And it's really sort of leaning into it. It's not trying to be super original. I think it's trying to establish itself differently from the original Pretty Little Liars, but I think it wants to sort of create its own thing by, I would say it's more Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of vibes than what I imagine Pretty Little Liars was, because again, I did a little research on that because I was like, I don't think they were doing like straight out horror on that show. And sure enough, they really weren't. So this is sort of a different angle for the series and the universe. But it's one that I like. And as a new fan, it actually does make me want to explore a little bit more into, I don't know if I'll ever get into that whole 6-season run, but maybe I'll watch one of those 1-season spinoffs just to get a little taste of a little more of the show. But I get why people were into this universe, because I'm digging it. I really liked it. Pretty Little Liars Original Sin gets an A- from me. All right, so we're going to close with 2 family-friendly shows on Apple TV+. Every so often I will go to the children and family. Well, I don't do the shows anymore usually for like the little kids, but whenever something's on Apple Plus for families, I always want to check it out, because I think, and I've said it so many times before, other than Harriet the Spy, which I didn't really care for, I think they have by far the best slate of kids and family programming on any streamer. It's so good, so many A's, A-, B+, in this camp. So we have Best Foot Forward, which is this kid who has been homeschooled partially because his parents are afraid to send him to public school because he has a prosthetic leg. And so he convinces them, you know what, I'm going into 7th grade, at some point I gotta be with, kids my own age and whatever. And he's played by Logan Marmino, who I thought I recognized, but I looked him up and I don't. He was in like nothing. But he just has that look, I guess, about him that, a lot of shows kind of gravitate towards with cute kids. And then the other one is Amber Brown. And she is played by also, somebody that I am not familiar with. Carson Rose is her name. And this one is special because it's created by and directed by Bonnie Hunt, who is, a favorite of mine from back in the 90s. She had a couple of failed sitcoms. You may know her best as the voice of the main female Car in the Cars movies. Or at least, I don't know if she was even she wasn't in the third one, I don't think, but at least the first couple. I can't remember the Car's name, but you know who I'm talking about. Lightning McQueen's girlfriend or whatever. So she's sadly, I guess, best known for that. But she's done. Oh, and you know what? She was the sister, Renee Zellweger's sister on Jerry Maguire. A lot of people might know her from that as well. But anyway, I've been following her career for a long time. So when I saw her name pop up, I was like, all right, this is definitely one to check out as well. But the deal with this girl, Amber Brown, is her parents are going through a divorce. And so she's got to sort of figure that out, through other family members and through, her friends at school. I'm going to sort of grade both of these together and talk about both of them together because they both, first of all, they premiered like one day after the other, but they both involve kids of about the same age. I would say they're both between like 11 and 12 years old, going into... for Josh and Best Foot Forward, it's a completely new school. Amber Brown, I don't know if it's a new school or if she just has trouble making friends at her school, but both shows involve very heavily, mind you, trying to make friends at school and trying to navigate all of these changes that are coming into their lives. And in Best Foot Forward's case, he's got two siblings to sort of, help him navigate through. Amber Brown sort of just has some of her older family members. And, she goes on to do like these blogs and stuff, but I don't, or vlogs, I guess, really, because they're videos, but I don't know if they're like just personal diaries for her, or if she uploads them or whatever. I didn't quite get that sense in the first episode. But in any event, these are both, I'm going to give both of them the same grade because I think they are both very, very cute, very enjoyable for everybody. And I think both of them cover interesting topics. Like the parents getting divorced thing, okay, we've seen that done before, of course. Nickelodeon shows have done that in the past. I believe Disney Channel as well. And even when I was a kid growing up, you had a few, well, of course, the Brady Bunch, that's like the classic, split family show. But in any event, this, shows her sort of navigating in the new millennium what that means, and watching her parents date online and sort of that thing. That's something that I think maybe we have not seen before too much in kids programming. And then for Best Foot Forward, he's got a prosthetic leg. That's certainly something that I think does not get shown enough on TV shows. Every so often, maybe there will be like a kid in a wheelchair. That's usually like the main thing. But this is sort of a new take on that, a new take on something diverse about this person that kids that maybe have a similar issue never get to see on television. So I think it's really interesting in that regard. And although I would say probably the messages in Amber Brown maybe resonate more, I think Best Foot Forward is funnier. So they both have a lot of good qualities. The child acting, I wasn't quite sure about Amber Brown at first, but after a couple of scenes, I think she settled into the role fairly well. So these shows both are going to get B+ from me. All right, so that's going to do it. Shorter show this week because we didn't have a ton of news to talk about, but we will be back next week with more TV news and reviews, probably 6 more shows to talk about with you, and some more news as well. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.